Okay, so here we have come to section 4, which looks at the various types of listening responses. We're going to definitely spend most time on this in class, so I'm going to try to go through this relatively quickly so that you will actually know how to use a variety of listening responses. We're going to look at the ones that are more reflective and the ones that are more directive. Okay. So this is in the textbook, but I really want to emphasize this. So the textbook asks us to think of people that we consider to be good listeners, and to think about what was it about this person that made you choose them. And they say it's probably because of the way they behave while you are speaking. So participants in one study said they expect listeners to be attentive, understanding, friendly, responsive, and able to maintain a conversational flow. So how do we know that this is happening? They're asking questions, they're answering questions. They're providing feedback that is both reflective and relevant. It's actually on topic, and it shows that they've thought about what you've said. They're going to offer their own perspective on whatever it is you share, and they will respond not just verbally, but also non-verbally by things such as eye contact, nodding, and leaning forward. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a look from silent listening all the way over to advising, and the ones on the left are more reflective, which means you are reflecting what the person said. A little side note, a lot of people say reflect back, but that's what reflect means. Reflect always implies back. So don't say that, just say reflect. So if they're not reflective, if they are reflective, it means that they're not directive. You're not telling someone what to do. But by the time you get over to advice, it's generally not very reflective at all, and it is very much a directive. You should do this. Okay, so let's take a look at some of these. I think a lot of us do silent listening where basically we're nodding. And we're not doing much beyond that, making eye contact, nodding, leaning forward. And there's a video that I would like you to watch. It's referenced in the textbook. It's called The Listener, and it talks about how we can learn a lot by doing silent listening. Right? Sometimes we think we have to be much more involved to learn, but see what comes out of this video. Really, the one of the reasons why we say silent listening is reflective is it helps other people solve problems on their own, where you're just going, even, I know it's this is not really silent, but saying things like, oh, that's quasi-silent listening. Okay. Questioning is one that is still very reflective and not very directive. You ask questions to say, well, what did you mean when you said it was too expensive? You ask questions to learn about what others are thinking, feeling, and what they want. Okay. Okay, you guys know what that means. We can ask open questions. Like I just said, what did you mean when you said that word? Because there are any number of answers. Or closed questions, do you want to go to the park on Saturday? Limited answers. Okay. In questioning, we can encourage people to talk more and to discover things on their own. Be very careful of counterfeit questions that you're trying to trap a speaker. By saying something like, think about, again, those dramas that take place in a courtroom where the person doing the cross-examination is asking a question really to trap the speaker. Okay, so just think about these counterfeit questions, and ask yourself, when you ask people questions, are you asking genuine questions, or are you, asking, questions that carry a hidden agenda. So are you doing anything on Friday? And you're like, ooh, no, I'm not. And they say, great, can you help me move? Okay. All right, so that's questioning. Paraphrasing, I like that. Woof, 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 but I'm paraphrasing. You are probably familiar with the concept of paraphrasing in terms of writing. When you're going to use the ideas of others, you have a choice of a direct quote, a paraphrase, or a summary. And so a paraphrase is restating in your own words. Okay, so paraphrasing is, in a sense, you're checking what you want to make sure that you understood what the person said. So you might start with, if I understand you correctly, you're saying, right? But, somebody says, oh, God, I hate my job. You don't say, so if I understand you correctly, you hate your job, because that's not a paraphrase. You've said word for word. You might say, oh, it seems like your boss is really getting on your case, right? You're offering an example of what you think the speaker is talking about. So you can paraphrase the actual words that were used or the underlying message that they're saying or that you think they're saying. Remember, we have to think back to perception. We're not always accurate in what we think is going on. Okay. Again, this is still it's more reflective than directive. Yeah, I said it right. Ooh, that got weird. Okay, you can paraphrase factual information or you can paraphrase personal information. This is really weird. So take a look at what the textbook says about paraphrasing. We're definitely going to do an activity in class on all of these listening responses, but in particular, we'll do one on paraphrasing. I think it's one that I like a great deal. And I got to fix this slide because it's really bothering me. Okay. Now we're moving right to the middle. So it's half reflective and half directive. Empathizing. You're identifying with the speaker. Oh, that sounds terrible. Okay. Oh, so what you're doing is you're identifying more with the speaker's emotions. It is a step beyond paraphrasing because you're focusing more on the emotions. You're not evaluating. Okay. Okay, we're going to get to supporting responses, but which is the next one. The empathizing is really where you're saying, I understand how you're feeling, and it's not a great situation, and is there anything I can do to help you? There's a great video where Brene Brown has spoken about empathy, and someone did a cartoon about it. Okay. Sometimes that we talk about kind of faux empathizing. Maybe we could call it pseudo empathizing, where, denying others the right to their feelings. Oh, it's not so bad. That's not empathizing. You think you have it bad. Look at Susie down the road. She broke both her legs. Okay. Supporting, it's still a good thing, right? Because you're showing that you have solidarity with whatever the speaker is going through. So you can say, for example, somebody says, my job is so challenging. I feel like I want to quit. And you can say, wow, I agree. You have a challenging job. The next one, offered help, is, this sounds really challenging for you. What can I do? Praise. I think you are doing a great job. I know you're always going in early and you stay late, and I'm really proud that you're doing that. All right. Reassurance. Okay. And you have to be careful that this doesn't end up being like false sympathy, where you say something like, I know you're struggling right now, but remember, you've gone through something like this before, so I'm sure that you can you can triumph in this situation. So you're reassuring them. Diversion is, squirrel, you're taking the person's attention to something else. Okay. Support is not always a good thing. Okay. It is beneficial when you're offering support, you are sincere. When you know that the other person will accept your support, and when you're focusing on the here and now rather than the then and there. That sounds funny all of a sudden. Here and now. Yes. Okay. So instead of, with the best intention in the world, my mom tends to do tomorrow's another day. It's always darkest before the dawn. Those are things that focus on the then and there instead of focusing on the now. So you want to make sure you're not giving faux support. We're definitely towards the more directive. So analyzing is you're giving an interpretation of the speaker's message. It can be a good thing if you are on target with the analysis, but if you are off target, your interpretation is incorrect, it can make the other person very confused or defensive. So, if you are someone who likes analysis, you like analyzing, here are some suggestions. Offer your interpretation tentatively. I think what you're saying is only analyze if you are reasonably sure that you're correct. Don't go out on a limb. Make sure the other person will be receptive. I frequently hate when my sister decides she's going to do analysis. Oh, well, your problem is, shut up. Okay. And you only do it if your motive is to truly help the other person. So I'm going to ask you to watch the video on analyzing. It is from the comedy show Everybody Loves Raymond. So I think you'll enjoy it. It always cracks me up. Okay. Evaluating is where you are this is when people say they're being judged. Okay. Really what we're doing is evaluating. We are saying that, we think someone did a good job or didn't do a good job. And the problem here is, I would say, who are you to tell me that I'm doing something, that I'm doing it well, or I'm not doing it well. My brother used to say, you're not the boss of me. Okay. So unless we, the speaker, are receptive to this, we frequently do not like evaluating because we feel judged. We might say, well, I'm only offering you constructive criticism, but frequently we don't hear the constructive part. We just hear the criticism. Okay. The last one, which I find is the go-to response for most people. And I have heard people say, well, if they didn't need advice, why did they say anything? So, my sister and I used to walk every weekend, and, sometimes I just wanted to vent, to get things off, to kind of hear what I needed to say it to understand it. And I might say, oh my gosh, I'm having so much trouble with name the person. And I wanted to say it and then go, oh, okay, I said it. It's real. Now I can move on. And my sister would say, well, you should. And as soon as I heard that word should, it was like, I don't think so. Okay. So advising is more often than not helpful. Okay. So it is not helpful when it's not really giving us the best suggestion about how to act. Oh my gosh, my boss is driving me crazy. And the person says, okay, well, you should just quit. Is that really the best thing to do? People don't necessarily want to be a person who gets advice, because that means they're a person who needs advice, and we don't always want to be in that position. Also, you might know someone who is always asking you, well, what should I do? And that's a kind of way of someone avoiding taking responsibility for their decisions, because if things go wrong, they can say, oh, well, I only did it because Michelle told me to, or, well, it was Ashley who thought it was a good idea. And a lot of people, if we are not receptive, then we're not going to accept any advice that is given. Okay, so if you are a person whose go-to listening response is giving advice, when somebody says, oh, I'm really struggling in interpersonal communication, I don't know what to do. Okay, so you ask yourself, you're ready to go, oh, well, you should ask yourself, who am I going to pick on in class? Does Tony really need my advice? Does he want my advice? Should I wait until he asks for advice? Is it given in the right sequence? Don't give advice until someone asks you for it. Okay? Is advice coming from an expert? So, is Kyle's going to give advice to Tony? Is he an expert on how to succeed in this class? Is the advisor a close and trusted friend? We don't usually take advice from people we don't know. I like this next one. Is advice offered in a sensitive, face-saving manner? Well, any idiot would know that you should. Okay, that is not sensitive, and it doesn't help the person's save face. And is the advice framed, excuse me, effectively? Have you said it in such a way so that it's so that the person can accept the message? So, and this one I would say avoid using you, make a kind of generic statement rather than a specific targeted, you idiot type of thing. Okay. Bottom line, what response do you use? Start with responses from the left side of that continuum, silent listening and questioning. Paraphrasing is also good. Empathizing, maybe supporting. Okay. 3 things to really consider. Think about the situation and match the responses to the nature of the problem. Think about the other person and what you know about them and how receptive they would be to this. Here's the deal. What if someone comes to you because they need advice and you're doing the, interesting. And then how did you feel about that? That could be frustrating because they really need you to do maybe more of the evaluating and advising. Okay. Also, think about yourself. If you are really bad at one of these, if empathizing is not your strength because you're trying to be sympathetic, but you're coming across as, oh, poor baby, which seems a little condescending, that might not be a good one to use. All right. So what we're going to do in class is we're going to have a chance to practice these different responses. So I really want you to know, what are these 8 different responses? Really spend some time going through these. What is your go-to response? And I want you to think about a time that you used whatever this was. Let's say it's analyzing and it wasn't effective. And when you look at these, is there a listening response that you would like to become better at? And so we can practice this in class. All right. So that was listening. I hope you enjoyed it. I tried to not talk as much as I usually do.